It's a good question, and I think it's a bit too restrictive. I don't think it's really necessary overall, and I would point out that if you have an honest currency and an honest game, then you don't really need to have a lot of those. A lot of those problems fix themselves very quickly, because like I said, what you're seeing is a distortion. And you know, on another video, maybe if I do another one, I'll dig out the whiteboard and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But if you go back to the very first video I ever did on YouTube, it's called the Primer Video, Financial Physics Primer Video, Primer. And you can find that video. It's the very first video I ever did, and I break it down right there. I show using an example of a Fibonacci sequence of numbers that is distorted. And that distortion creates each successive problem, and it compounds. So to explain it to you in this video briefly, 0 plus 1 is 1, right? 1 plus 1 is 2. And then, you know, and then we got 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5, right? And then if we take the 3 and the 5, and if, let's say we changed it and said, instead of 3 and 5 equaling 8, we said it's worth, you know, it's 3 plus 5 equals 3 or 4. Now, then we have this problem, right? Because the series is going to be incorrect, even though the next equation, which would be, you know, what would be 5 plus 4 would be 9. So, you know, that next step is that equation 9 plus 4 is 5, or 5 plus 4 is 9. Yes, that's correct. So that individual answer by itself is correct, but every successive answer after that, even though each individual answer can be correct, the sequence is wrong. That's your distortion. And that's the analogy I use for when you mess with currency, when you mess with people's money, especially to the way that we've allowed bankers to do this. When you allow that, they create such a distortion. This is why you have a bunch of people arguing about everything, and then you find out if they talk to each other individually, they end up agreeing on like 90% of everything. You ever notice that? I don't know. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I've noticed that, right? You could have a big group of people all arguing, freaking out, going crazy, ready to hit each other with frying pans. You know, you could have all of that, and then if you find that one or two people, they just sit down and they're just talking, and even if they completely disagree on a bunch of things, they end up starting to agree on like a lot of really big important stuff, even if they completely disagree with each other on a bunch of small stuff, right? That's a fascinating thing, isn't it? Well, that's because, you know, you're clearing up the distortion, right? You're starting to understand that there's like, well, there's a problem with what we're seeing here, and that's what leads that, right? That's why communication is important. That's why they don't like this. That's why they had to get rid of TikTok. That's why they have to do like that's where all this comes from. As soon as people start talking to one another, right? I mean, I'm talking to you, whoever you are, even though I realize I'm talking to like probably maybe thousands of people. But I'm talking to you like one person, right? And I'm talking to you like one person, like if you were standing here in my garage with me. I would be saying the same thing I'd be saying to you as I am right now. Of course, I'm actually having to clean a lot of it up for the internet, but you get the idea. So, but that's what ends up happening, is that people start agreeing on a few things that they don't want. You've heard me talk about this lots of times, that you can't get people to agree with what you want, but you can get people to agree on a handful of things that we don't want. So we don't want to have, you know, some big, government that comes in and says you can't have free speech, or you can't defend yourself, or you can't have, you know, privacy. We can agree that we don't want that. The vast majority of us can agree that we don't want that. Now we can argue about all the things we do want, but we can agree that we don't want that. And that's the foundation of where you start from. So I hope that helps. I don't know that it would really be necessary. I think that if you fix a lot of the currency, and I think if you fix those problems, a lot of them solve themselves, and you don't really need to have that kind of thing. There's plenty of space all over the U.S. I travel all over the U.S. on the ground, not flyover country. I don't, you know, I mean, I'm a pilot, but I don't, you know, I'm not flying, you know, for work. I drive for work, so I'm all over the place. And there is plenty of space for everybody, I will assure you. You just have to let the market actually fix itself and stop allowing foreign governments, foreign bankers, corporations to own all this property and claim that it's theirs and never actually do anything with it. That's just stupid. And no more subsidies. You get rid of all the agricultural subsidies, most of the big farms go away, and then you pay a real price for groceries. But then again you get real groceries at that point. So.